Welcome to The Real Factor. This is a podcast where we like to talk about movies, whether it's classic movies, modern day movies, TV movies, you name it. We love it. We even delve into some TV shows sometimes.
That's right.
My name is Thor.
And I'm Ed. And first, like and subscribe to The Real Factor. Just click that little button down there. It doesn't hurt you at all. It just helps us out. And that way you'll get to hear more great content from us. Today we're going to talk about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This is our second one we've done in the Indiana Jones series.
Yes.
Maybe kind of moving up to the new one coming up this summer. So this one came out in 1984.
Yep.
This movie has a kind of notorious for its graphic content at the time whenever it came out. This movie, as well as Gremlins, both put out by Steven Spielberg, helped push the PG-13 rating. Because a lot of parents and stuff complained about all the graphic nature, and mainly dealing with what they called the dinner scene.
Yes.
Yes. And then we'll talk about another part later on.
So not the see-through shirt scene?
Yeah, no. But but we'll get to that in a second. But this was the second one of the Indiana Jones franchise, hot off the heels of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was a mega hit.
Yes.
And this one actually goes into a prequel. It doesn't follow the other one, and really kind of takes it to a dark turn for Indiana Jones. Backstory, Spielberg was kind of going through a dark time in his life. I think he had just got divorced and was having, just personal issues, and he kind of went to the darker side. If you look at all of his movies around that time, they all have a little bit darker tone to it. But anyways, let's talk about life. Indiana Jones.
Art reflects life.
It does. So this is one, I liked it when I first saw it, really liked it. Of course, I was 13, and as I got older, I'm like, it's just not as good as the others. It's kind of takes a dark turn and all this kind of stuff. But the more I watch it now, the more I really like it.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Do tell.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the opposite side of the fence.
I mean, there are things in it that are movieisms that, I can nitpick, and I'll kind of go over that a little bit later on. But no, I mean, I think if you take it for what it is, this is a roller coaster ride of a movie. I mean, from the get-go.
Yeah, it's nonstop.
It is just nonstop action.
Yeah.
I actually I like now because, with the newer ones, they all try to throw back in Nazis.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that this doesn't include Nazis in it. They take a different type of villain, a different historical group, and add the adventure and the horror to it.
Well, it was set in 1935, which, I know the Nazis were coming into power at that time. They hadn't started World War II yet. But, I'm glad that aspect was out of it in this part of the franchise.
Right.
But when I saw it, because I watched it again last night for this, and I was like, oh, that's right. It says the sequel, but it's really a prequel.
Right.
And so I was like, and then that made me think when I was going through the thing, I'm like, well, that makes you wonder, and what's Raiders of the Lost Ark? Okay, Kate Capshaw, Willie Scott, she's no longer in the scene. Short Round's not in the scene. Of course, they couldn't because they didn't cast him yet, but it was like, he just ditched them. He just ditched them between the two movies, if you really think about it.
Well, and honestly, if you look at all of them, they all are
standalone.
They're all kind of standalone. They all have their own individual cast. They all have their individual girls.
Yeah.
It wasn't until they made the fourth one 15 years later that they decided, well, let's capitalize on trying to bring Karen Allen back.
Yeah.
And even her role on that was kind of, they did the best they could. But
I know we didn't really talk before this, but I think we vary on the scale of how much we like this movie.
All right. But, even from when we did Raiders, I'm a bigger Raiders fan than what you were.
Right.
So, but yeah. So,
this follows suit.
Let's go with it.
Let's do it.
So, I really like this because, at first, I guess when I first kind of saw it, the whole Kate Capshaw, Willie Scott character, who, Steven Spielberg ended up marrying, her screaming just totally just berated me. I was just like, all this character does is scream.
Yep.
Scream.
Yep.
Scream. She does a good job at it. And I think the more that I've softened, and the more that I've watched, because I mean, I've seen this thing 10 plus times, that it's just kind of, it flows into her character. And she has her arc. Everybody.
What arc was that?
Well, because she actually,
I think she hit one person.
But she survived an adventure versus her little singing in the club. And talk about the club scene at the very beginning. I know I'm jumping all around, but
that works.
When I was little, I totally didn't understand the artistic direction of how they did the opening number, because I was just kind of like, you mean that big space where all those people are dancing is behind the club? Why is that there?
That part was not needed. I mean, you go from they're in an Asian club in Shanghai.
Correct.
And all the performers, none of them are Asian. The main character here is a white woman.
Yeah.
And then they come on a stage, so you're like, okay. And the other women they're dressed in the black wigs. But then they go to this Rockettes kind of thing that opens up on this big, wide set where there's no background settings, there's nothing. And they just do their little kick numbers and everything else. And then it comes right back into the thing. And I'm like, okay, that was just like filler. Just to get the credits rolling.
It's just the credits. I mean, it's just the song that she was singing, showing that she was, I mean, I tend to get it more now because of it setting the time period and everything, and that's kind of where that was going on. It doesn't bother me as much now.
I didn't say it bothered me. It just I didn't think it was necessary, but who am I to argue with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, But anyway, I mean, I'm a consumer, I'm a fan, I'm the one who pays.
And the other little thing that like I said, I'm only getting to some minor things that just kind of that bother me, but I just kind of gloss over. Okay, so the one part where they pull the red ribbon from each girl across.
Yeah.
And then she comes through, like she's going to come run through and grab it all. And then it just automatically switches to like a full one. And it's like, oh, come on. Come on now. You didn't fool me, Steven. You didn't fool me on that one. But still, I really like that setup, with just the exchange of the diamonds and
that was really cool.
And I really thought that was a great action set piece to kind of get the movie going. And you remember what the club was called, right?
Gosh, no, I do not. Sorry.
Club Obi-Wan.
No.
It was, it's called Club Obi-Wan. It was this little homage to Star Wars.
When are we going to review that one?
Soon.
When will then be now?
Right.
Soon.
The
the club scene was really cool. I liked it, and I'll come back a little bit because I do have, like to say, a lot of critiques about this. But when I was younger and watched it for the first time back in '84, it was absolutely amazing. I loved it. It was great. But then when you have time and you watch other movies, then you can go back and digest this one. Not to pick it apart, but you start, that wasn't necessary. Okay, this was over the top. Kate Capshaw with her screaming, that's what they told her to do. But it was just nonstop. And it was like annoying. To me, she was the least character needed there. She had to overcome the stuff. I get it. But she put herself on this pedestal. And Indiana Jones kind of put her there too. Especially when they had that little sexual tension and this and that. But it just...
Which I think that was well done. The little scene that was in their little room.
Yeah.
I thought their chemistry whenever they were actually going back and forth against each other.
Yeah.
I actually thought they had pretty good chemistry with that.
Yeah.
You don't.
I did like.
It's really kind of the first time that you've seen Indiana Jones kind of have any type of sexual feelings. I mean, you had Marion and he finally kissed her and all that kind of stuff, but that was the first time you ever saw him having that playfulness with another woman. Yeah.
I do like the fact that he left the room. She's like, you'll be back in 5 minutes. And he's sitting there watching the clock like, all right, like in 5 minutes and 1 second, I'm going over there. Right. But I didn't come back within 5 minutes. And she's like, he's not showing up. He's not showing up. So that was good. And I mean, I do like that part. He was trying to be, the guy was trying to kill him, strangle him. And then she's over there, raising a fit. I mean,
You're just going to slip through my fingers, and he's like reaching out, trying to,
so that was well played. But,
it took a while for Short Round to wake up, though.
Yeah, really. But every other time, he was on the ball with it. But, I don't know if it's Steven Spielberg that likes to do it. In Raiders, he had all the snakes everywhere. And, of course, we know Indiana Jones does not like snakes.
Yeah.
And then this one, they had the scene where all the bugs are in the one room. It's like, really?
We got to have something.
To make you scream and squirm.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it's too much. Does that make sense?
Well, I think that
Because
was one of
it's
the
like-
big critiques when it came out from parents, that it was too much.
No, I meant like too much like cheesy.
Like
if there was she's standing there trying to figure out how to move the button or this and that, and the things are crawling up on her legs, up on her shoulder, in her hair, this and that, and it's like, all right, but if it's like it's almost better when you have less.
The less is more?
Right. Like if she's sitting there trying to reach in and all of a sudden there's one strange bug that's coming down and she can see it, but she's still got to accomplish it versus, okay, all these things are crawling.
I get that.
It's like, okay. But
yeah, I get that. What were your thoughts about Short Round?
I wanted to wait, what? They told him the story, and I forgot it now. Why he got hooked up with Indiana Jones? Because wasn't his dad or his uncle?
He was an orphan that was pickpocket. Yeah, and he was pickpocketing Indiana Jones, and then he realized that he didn't have. He called him, and then realized he didn't have any family.
Right, because his dad or something died in the bombing of Shanghai.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked that up when I first did the search for it. It said bombing was in 1937. I'm like, okay. All right, well, there's an error right there because this was set in 1935, but apparently there was a bombing or something that happened in 1932 between Japan and Shanghai. So it's like, I guess I was actually looking for errors, and I don't know why.
Right, yeah.
I did find, Short Round, Ke Kwan, of course, he was great in this film, and of course I love him in the next film he was in, which was Goonies, which we've discussed. But I think he did a great job. He was there. He was the most loyal person he could be to Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Whether because he was a father figure, he didn't want him to give up. He told him to fight, trying to, drink the blood that they were forcing down him that would change him into, a mindless drone. And I think he did well. And he ended up fighting that one kid at the end and started beating the snot out of him, who was under the same spell.
Yeah.
So
generally, I don't like kid sidekick characters.
Yeah.
I think that they're unnecessary. They're generally cheesy. But I'll say this one, I think they actually did a good job with them. They made him likable.
Yes.
And I think, they did a great job with that. Yeah, I would love to see if they could bring him back for this other one.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of kid sidekicks, they're kind of like, it's forced in that situation. But this one basically was like a natural fit. He was a pickpocket. Indiana Jones had pity on him and like, all right, you're going to help me now. And of course, in the first time we see him, he's driving that car with those 6-inch blocks or whatever on his feet.
Right.
And I was like, look at the timing and everything. The car just happens to be right where they're going to fall out through the balcony. And I'm like, and I also started thinking, a lot of times when I see these stunts, I think of the stunt actors. How they're literally having to tumble through all these things, and then land in the car.
Yeah.
Or with the...
and that's what you got to understand. Yeah, this is filmed in 1983.
Oh, yeah, 83. Yeah.
And, you didn't have CGI and all that kind of stuff.
No.
And even I was looking at the original stunt of... And I'm assuming this was done with people, or maybe not, but when there were the lifeboat jumped out of was thrown out of the plane. Now, granted, it kind of came down straight, which I'm like, I don't know if it would do that. I had to be weighted.
I'm thinking it was mannequins or something, but I don't know.
But still, it was one shot from the plane, following it all the way down, then landing on the ground, and then they cut to another side shot. But the miniature.
I don't know if you would risk that. If that life raft doesn't inflate the way it's supposed to. I mean, in theory, it's really cool, but as soon as they hit the ground from that height, I mean, it's not going to slow your descent that much.
Right.
It would,
as well as going over the waterfall and all that kind of stuff.
That's where the big cheese comes in.
Well, and it is, but I think that's kind of where you
is really awesome.
But I think that's it's an Indiana Jones movie. I mean, you're going to have cheese in it. You know, it's the same thing with the original Raiders with the guy, the swordsman, and he just shoots him. Now, granted, that was
they did it's again, this is the prequel, but they did a throwback to that when you had the two guys with the swords and he went to reach for his gun. And he's like, I don't have my gun.
Yeah. That was in the big. I remember that was a big point in the trailer. That they had that part to kind of get everybody.
Well, let me ask you. One thing I had an immediate issue with. They get Willie from the club, and she's in her evening gown or whatever. You know, she's in her costume, and they get on the plane, on a cargo plane, and the next thing you know, she's fully clothed with other stuff, and she's carrying her costume. It's like, where did the other clothes come from?
I thought that was his suit he was wearing.
No, her.
I know, but I thought she was wearing his suit.
No, because it was like a white jacket and this and that.
Was he in a white jacket?
Was that his suit?
I think it was, but then again,
but
it was
tailored.
It was tailored to her.
Yeah, but
well, it's
she
the
had
same thing.
It
was the same thing I have is like whenever they put her in the sacrificial garb. I mean, do they have little, all those guys' wives are in the back sewing, sacrificial garbs that are tailored to whoever they're putting in because they all had rubies and and jewels all over them, but yeah. So those little things like that, you just kind of have to look over.
As I watch a lot of our listen to a lot of our podcasts and watch some of the YouTube stuff, and we always say it's for the movie, You have to suspend your belief.
There's a lot of suspension of disbelief in Indiana.
I tell you what, and sometimes I'm such a stickler, where when they're flying in the plane to begin with, and they show them going over the Great Wall of China. But when they show the map, they're going the exact opposite way of the Great Wall of China. I'm like, you couldn't really fly over that because that was between China and Mongolia, and they're actually flying towards India. Anyway.
Yeah.
And that's when I started. I guess that's exactly when I was like, wait a minute. They're just putting stuff in here to make it look cool. Of course.
Of course.
But in 1984, I had no idea. I was a little boy. So
yeah, and and as a young teen, I mean, it was talking about the sacrificial, scene, the first one, pretty scary stuff with the guy ripping the heart out of his chest and
still
watching it. Yeah, it's still beating, and then it burned. So that right there, because that guy who they put down first, he started heating up about halfway down.
Mm-hmm.
And Willie got all the way about a foot away.
Yeah, I know.
And was still fine.
Couple times.
Yeah, up and down. So, those little things like that.
I thought it was really cool that they could have the heart and it was still beating to how scared he was. I mean, because every time they lowered him and he was screaming and screaming, the heart in the guy's hand was beating faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it caught on fire. And of course I'm like, are they using a petroleum gel? Not a petroleum gel. They put when people do the stunts for when they're on fire, they have this gel or whatever. And I'm wondering if he's holding that or if it was, I don't know about CGI or something, but it looked like he was holding it when it was on fire. And he just kept holding it. I'm like, that's going to burn your hand. Which would have been really funny if he's like, oh God.
It's magic. And also, just afterwards, all those guys, they dispersed very quickly whenever the ceremony was over for Indiana Jones to go down and seal the.
And they left the 3 stones.
Get the 3 stones.
There's supposed to be 5 stones. So what happens when you put all 5 stones together?
Well, that's why they were digging for all the stones, because that was supposed to give them ultimate power.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they had all the kids, slave labor.
Yes.
So, anyways, I like the end of it. I like the minecart chase. There's some little, again, suspension of disbelief with that.
Yes.
But it's still fun.
It went too long.
It did go a little long. When they got to the end of it and they crawled out, it was just kind of like everybody just appeared, just on top of the thing. They're all climbing on the side of this, chasm, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're on top.
Well, then how do the guys get on the other side? Because when he starts going across the rope bridge, all of a sudden the head guy and his other, I'm like, how did they get over there?
How did you do that? And I really think that if you're just going to go all out, you should have just had those crocodiles just really chomping on those people, other than just like their garbs.
Those are alligators. When they should have been crocodiles, because crocodiles are over in India, not alligators.
There you go. And my last little bit that I'll say, again, this is a movieism, where they came up to the village at the end. And they walk in and they do their little talking, and then all of a sudden, 1,000 children come running in.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, did they tell them just to hold back for a second? Hey, just wait a minute. Let me go talk to them first and make sure we're all okay.
Well, I thought it was funny when they got to the village, everybody spoke English. It was like, really? I know it's under British rule at this time, but you're in a remote village. They're not all going to speak English.
Well, it was just the
was
shaman.
it just the
It was
man?
just the shaman
Okay.
that did that.
I hate being wrong, but okay, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I do like the authentic part where when they bring them the food, when they first get to the village, and it's disgusting, whatever it was.
Yeah.
That she's like, no, thank you, and Indiana looks at her and says, "You're offending them. This is more than what they eat in a week." Which I don't know about 100% of that, but when you go to a foreign country like that, you eat what they give you.
Yeah.
And I mean, even I've read, or one time I saw, it was like if they give you the bat head because they'll eat bats, that's like the honor.
Yeah.
And you have to eat it, otherwise
That's their Chick-fil-A.
You are really offending them. So I thought they did real well on that. But when she was about to eat it and the fly landed on it, and she shook it off and it landed back again, I'm like, just even as an actor and actress, I can only imagine going, really, if I just landed on it, now I really got to still put it in my mouth. I'm like, okay.
So there was more method acting with that one.
It had to, because the fly did land on it.
Yeah. Okay. So what is your real grade for this? A 5.
Well, yeah. 5 is the best, amazing, blah, blah, blah. You're not going to like this, but I give it a 3.
Okay. I give it a 4. Like you said, I
thought
like
yours
it.
was going to be higher.
No. I mean, it's not. If I'm still ranking the ones out there, it's my 3rd favorite.
Okay.
But it's kind of, as far as going up the meter, it's, it's not going to. I mean, it's still Indiana Jones, Last Crusade, and then Temple of Doom,
right.
And then Kingdom of Crystal Skull is way down the list. But but how much I like it has increased over the time.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's just because, the horror aspect of it. I love horror movies, so I kind of like that a little bit more now. So we'll see. What did you think? How do you compare this to the other Indiana Jones? Let us know. Put the comments down below, and please like and subscribe. And then we'll see you next time on The Real Factor. Bye.